So welcome to the inside of my pantry. It's all very bowl cooking, but the reason I'm doing this is because it struck me that I'm giving you all these recipes, and really the most effective way for me to get you cooking is to help you to stock your pantry so that you can. Let's start with a few of the basic kind of pantry stock that's going to last you some time. But essentially, whenever you're dealing with Indian food, you want a couple of different lentils, because different recipes are going to call for different types of lentils. Different lentils cook differently and obviously have different taste profiles. So here we have, this is a Chana Dal, so split chickpeas. This is a Tur Dal, so it's a split pigeon pea, and this is a split red lentil. And between these three lentils, Chana, this is the hardest, Tur, this is a sort of a mid to softer dal, and split red, and this is a very soft lentil. So between these three dals, I can essentially cook anything I need just with those. So I always have these stocked in the pantry. A really good basmati rice. So I use this Maharani one because it's kind of the best quality that I can get with regularity. But if you can find a good basmati that has lovely texture, aroma, and that's nice and fine. Flour's important. So this is a big bag of atta flour. It's upside down. Atta flour is what I use to make all of my flatbreads. So chapati, roti, puri, the samosa pastry. So it's highly useful. I use it probably almost every day. So the other flour as well. So as well as atta flour, a little bit of besan flour. So I've got atta flour, my bin's open, which is a wheat-based flour, and then besan flour, which is made from chickpeas. It's a real utility flour in Indian food, besan flour. It has a very particular taste. So besan flour is what we use when we're making pakoras. I use it in some traditional Kashmiri lamb dishes. Obviously it's not a wheat, so there's no gluten in there, so it's gluten-free, but that means it's a very short pastry, so it's very short as a dough. You can make flatbreads from it. It's a little bit difficult, requires a little bit of kind of panache, a little bit of skill, and I lack that, so I stick to atta flour. Sugars. Jaggery is the preferred sugar in terms of cooking with Indian food most of the time, and that's because it has a very molasses, caramel, buttery, fudgy component to its sweetness. So I always say it's a sugar that eats like a fat, and I do have a couple of videos on jaggery, its use, its flavour profile, and its the way it can be used to help introduce children to spice as well. But this is two different forms. So this is the block. I'll get it out so you can see. So this has had the least amount of refining. It's just cane sugar. And then this jaggery has been powdered. So it's been taken one step further. So the block has a much more buttery caramel. It almost tastes like a fudge, just eaten straight. Whereas this is more like a rapadura or a coconut sugar, but it's rounder and softer than either of those. Coconut sugar is quite sharp. So these two sugars as well will be very helpful in recreating some of these Indian tastes. Oils, hugely important, so fats basically. In terms of North Indian cooking, which is really mainly what I do, ghee, very buttery, very sweet, very dense and floury, and with a particular taste that contributes a base profile to a dish. Mustard oil, almost the exact opposite of ghee. It's viscous, it's oily, it's thick, it's peppery and hot and floral and very pungent. Again, it's a particular aroma for a particular style of dish. And then a vegetable oil. So I always have bulk vegetable oil, and that's because a lot of the dishes will have a frying component. Sometimes that frying component requires flavour, like a mustard oil or a ghee, but quite often you're just looking at a high point neutral oil, and that's when you want a vegetable oil to do the work. Yogurt, because in Kashmiri cooking in particular, but in Indian food in general, there's quite a lot of yogurt used throughout. Like dairy is a big component of lots of Indian dishes, whether it's ghee, yogurt, you know, a little bit of cream, butter. It's such a good source of protein and nutrition, and it also does very beautiful things to spice. So dairy softens some of the contrast and the complexity that's inherent in regional Indian cooking across the subcontinent. So that experience of having a really kind of cacophonous mouthful where you've got all of these different textures and aromas and in some ways competing interests is what creates that just very unique, delicious, spicy, interesting taste. Something like dairy, particularly yogurt, ghee and butter, it helps to make that contrast much more digestible for the physical body. Asafoetida, now this is a real Kashmiri ingredient. So almost every dish I ever make that's traditional Kashmiri Pandit food has asafoetida. So this is the liquid that I make from the resin. And I'm not sure how accessible that resin is in Australia, but what is very accessible is the powder. So Indians, it's called hing in Hindi, but asafoetida is how you will know it and find it. And that's the garlic and onion replacement. Don't use a lot, but it's really difficult to replace as a flavour profile. So always good to have that on hand. So Pantry Staples, I guess your supporting cast of, you know, of spice. This is kind of what you need. This is a pretty encompassing selection of ingredients that you could almost make anything on the channel so long as you have these in your pantry. Oh, where are they available? Indian grocers mainly for some of it. The mustard oil, maybe the atta flour and some of the lentils. But to be honest, one thing I've noticed, especially in the last 5 years, is how, I guess, Indian ingredients are filtering through to the mainstream supermarkets, which is kind of exciting to see because it means that there's a known quality now to this cuisine in Australia that hasn't always been there. When we were growing up, even getting ghee was a big deal. So it's kind of exciting. So look to your local supermarket, whatever's easier first, and then Asian grocers will be able to fit you out.